Basics with Babish and my website, basicswithbabish.com, are brought to you by Squarespace. Head there now to check out all of the recipes from the show, kitchen equipment lists, and more. Get 10% off your first Squarespace order with offer code BABISH, whether you need a domain, website, or online store. Make your next move with Squarespace. Alright, so the basis of any good poutine is obviously French fries, which you might be surprised to learn are made from potatoes. So now that we got a solid 2 to 3 pounds of russets here, we're going to slice them into French fry shapes. And you'll notice that I'm leaving the skins on. This is going to make for a bit more of a rustic presentation, and poutine is kind of a rustic dish. Next up, we want to rinse all the starch off our potatoes. This is going to help them brown more evenly and prevent sticking down the line. Just keep rinsing them until the water runs clear, like this. Then, maybe most importantly, we need to dry these French fries thoroughly. I don't know if you've ever tried throwing something wet into hot oil, but if you do, you're gonna have a bad time. So using a nice lint-free cloth like this one, we're gonna get these super duper dry, and then it's time to commence to the first stage of frying. If you've ever watched this show before, you know the best way to make French fries is to double fry them. In batches into a vat of 350 Fahrenheit vegetable oil they go, for about 5 to 7 minutes until they're just starting to turn lightly blonde. This par cooking process is going to mostly cook the potato through without getting it fully browned. This is the color we're looking for, just starting to turn a light tawny around the edges. Then once all the fries are fried and evacuated onto a paper towel lined rimmed baking sheet, you can see I slightly overcooked a couple here, no biggie. We're gonna let these cool completely to room temperature and then place them in the freezer for at least 4 hours. This is going to make our French fry interiors nice and fluffy and creamy, and it gives us a little bit of time to work on our gravy. Now in the past I've shown how to make rich, dark, deeply flavored stocks entirely from scratch, but what if you want poutine now? Well, in that case, you can simply use some aromatics and fresh herbs to amp up some store-bought stock. Into a large saucepan goes a little glug of the cooking oil of your choice, which we're going to heat over medium-high flame until shimmering, adding our vegetables to brown. The more nice dark brown color we get on our veg, the more flavor we're going to add to our stock. You could also add some high-quality ground beef or chicken to the mix if you want to go really crazy, but I'm just going with some onions, shallots, carrots, garlic, and ginger. Once those are nice and brown, I'm going to add the carton of store-bought along with some fresh herbs. I'm thinking parsley and thyme. Get this guy up to a simmer and then cook for 1 hour before straining. This tip works great for amping up any store-bought stock, and in this case it's going to help us make a gravy that tastes much more homemade. Back into our large, cleaned out saucepan goes 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, which we're going to bring to a bubble before adding 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, which we're going to whisk and cook for about 1 minute until a light blonde roux is formed, into which we are going to slowly stream our semi-homemade stock, whisking constantly, making sure no lumps or clumps can form, and then we're going to amp up our gravy's flavor with a few splashes of soy sauce, and you know what, it starts with a W sauce. Then of course we're going to taste for seasoning. This needs a great deal of salt and freshly ground black pepper. Whisk that on in there, and then it's time to cook this down to our desired consistency. I'm going for a consistency almost reminiscent of gravy. Set that aside and keep it warm because it's time to tear off little chunks of mozzarella and roll them into balls because we couldn't find cheese curds. I know this is a really lame substitute, but sometimes you don't live in Wisconsin or Quebec. Anyway, now we've fetched our fries out of the freezer and into some 400 Fahrenheit oil they go until they are crisp and golden brown. Their cook time is going to depend entirely on how much you par cooked them, so just keep an eye on them. Then once everybody's cooked and has been allowed to drain on a wire rack, we're going to dump them into a large metal bowl and season liberally with kosher salt, tossing gently to ensure that we don't have any unsalted fries, which are a huge bummer. And then, as you might imagine, poutine assembly is a relatively simple process. Fries down first, quote-unquote cheese curds on top of that. Canadians, please forgive me, I didn't have to tell you the truth, these look exactly the same. And then our nice thick gravy poured over top the whole deal, making the cheese soften but not melt, and making the French fries half crisp and half soaked in meaty, rib-sticking goodness. Hope you guys give this one a try for yourselves, and I hope for your sake you can find real cheese curds. This episode and many others have been sponsored by Squarespace because they've been an amazing partner in both bringing this show and my websites to life. They've got a really intuitive, easy-to-use platform that made it super easy for someone like me who's never done web design, ever. They have templates, they do domains, they have really good customer service. It's basically a one-stop shop for building a really slick website. If you want to try it for yourself, you can start your free trial today at squarespace.com and enter in offer code BABISH to get 10% off your first purchase.